September 14th meeting of the City of Longmont Parks Recreation Advisory Board meeting to order. Roll call, Aaron?
Here.
Paige?
Here.
Scott?
Here.
Here. Mouse member? Here. And Thomas is not here. No Nicholas. Agenda. Any amendments, additions, or motions? I'll move to approve.
I'll move to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
Great. All in favor? Okay. Passes. Approval of previous month's minutes. Any comments or amendments?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Number 7, page 4. It says Spring Village Phase 2, but it was really Spring Village 2 Phase 3.
Very good.
Yeah, that's interesting. I apologize.
Yeah.
So,
On item 7, Spring Gulch to phase 3.
yes.
Very good. Anything else? Okay. Motion to approve the minutes from the September 9th meeting.
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
Edits.
Seconded?
I'll
As
second.
amended? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Okay, unanimous, great.
Good.
Next week, public invited to be heard.
Hi,
Please
I'm
share
the public.
Yeah, please share your,
I'm Elizabeth Storm, up in Northwest Longmont near Macintosh Lake.
great.
And
You got
I,
like 3 or 5 minutes or whatever it is.
what's that?
3 minutes.
3 minutes.
3 minutes?
Think so.
Okay, who's timing?
Nobody's talking.
Okay. So I did submit an application to be on the Parks and Rec board beginning in January. And while I'm here, I figured I'd chat about some of the things that I've noticed in the myriad parks that I visit with my kiddos, winter, spring, summer, and fall. So we play a lot at Flanders Neighborhood Park, which is, I'm curious, is that one of the heaviest used parks in the city, because it feels like it. Literally dawn to dusk. And the slide has been broken for at least 6 months. I submitted a maintenance request back in March, and just in the past maybe month or so, a board has been covered up the slide, so kids can't go down it now and rip their pants or scrape their legs, which is the plastic slide that's been deteriorating. So I'm curious as to what the repair and replace timeline is on that park, because I know Thompson Park, which was older, but I played there with my kiddos before, seemed proficient enough. And so I'm just curious about the Flanders Park. Again, I'm curious if that gets more use or less use or the same amount as Thompson. And the Pirate Ship Park, also up there, now has the only usable slides, also covered up by a little piece of wood. And he's nodding because he's like, I know I did that.
You're in the perfect night out.
Yeah.
So those are the parks that we use, multiple times a week, and that we're not the only ones. People come from Boulder, people come from all over the place to use them. I won't start talking about parking. That's not my beef. And then the Longmont Rec Center we love. We use it for swim lessons with our just now 2-year-old and our 3-year-old. We have to be online at 7:55 a.m. when that stuff opens in order to get into the aqua tot and turtle classes, etc. So more swim instructors, please. And the water slide, which you can take your little ones down, has been closed. The big purple one that you can actually put your kiddo sort of on your lap, assuming the lifeguards deem it safe, etc. So now that it's winter and all the awesome pools are closed and the splash pads, we'd love for them to be open, that slide in particular. So yeah, you'll get lots more if you select me for your board.
Thank you. Your name again?
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth, thank you, Elizabeth.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Do you mind if we, since she is here, and
I do not mind.
if we respond a little bit? I want mind doing it.
Nobody's time to
Timber Tussey is our park superintendent, and he's going to be doing a whole presentation on how we manage our parks, how we look at budgets, how we do that. But I also would like to say one of the things that you raised a good question: is it our busiest park? I think every park zone staff is always going to say their park is the busiest. Every neighbor's going to say their park is the busiest. I came from the county prior to this, and we have a trail with a head. You put a little counter there, you count all the people going in, you get 90%. Our parks have these porous boundaries, and you just have a hard time counting people. So we've been looking at some new technologies out there to really help us better understand our usage, where people are coming from. Feels kind of a little bit Big Brother's intrusive, but also help Timber know if we expect a park to last a certain amount of time, but we're getting double the use, Maybe you have to start thinking about doing that a little bit sooner. So it is, again, like everything else, it's a subscription, it's a cost, but I think it has real value to the city to really know how our parks are getting used, who they're getting used by, where, as you mentioned, people coming from Golden and other places. I mean, when you do a neighborhood park, you say, well, it's supposed to be these people coming to it, and we know that's not the case now. Ben, you want to say anything else about
Yeah,
that?
I'm Ben Wagner, I'm Recreation and Golf Superintendent, so, rec center, swim lessons, yes, we are constantly hiring. I mean, we don't stop hiring,
I know.
and won't stop hiring, we will hire every person and train them ourselves.
Yeah.
So, that is our intent, because
Yeah.
we know that right now we've reached a Ticketmaster status
Mhm.
for our swim lessons, that everything comes out on the first day. That is not how we want it to be, but we are limited by, but no, we are working on it. I did not know the purple slide was closed for any reason, so.
That's what a lovely dad told me, so I am just relaying the chit chat information that I get from parents, etc.
I hadn't heard that one, usually I do, but I will.
Okay, I apologize. I'm David Bell, Director of Parks and Natural Resources.
Yeah, sure. So Tim Bertossi, I'm the park superintendent. So with 2013, 2014, the city passed the parks and agreement maintenance fee. We've had a huge workload to catch up on since then, and Flanders is on that list. So Dawson was also on
Where?
that list, right? There's about 5 playgrounds that are in need of renewal.
Yeah.
Thompson and Roosevelt were at the head of that list
Yeah.
for this year. So we're looking at probably, I don't want to commit to a time frame, but
Yeah.
Flanders is on the list. There's 5 of them. Flanders, Valley, Pratt Park, anything with a sand is on the list.
Yeah.
But what's unfortunate is Dawson was on that list at the start, and it got replaced.
Yeah.
And we're seeing that that park is starting, some of the amenities are starting to fail. It's only 8 years old.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, we're starting to see that some of our older playgrounds lasted about 20 to 25 years, and some of the newer playgrounds, unfortunately, are lasting like 15 years.
Yeah.
So Flanders, because it's so old, we can't get parts for it anymore.
Yeah. I looked at the manufacturer and was about to go and be like, can I buy this bottom extension and how much?
So we've hit a point where we either have to take out the slide, right, or we replace the whole playground, which is what we want to do. Dawson, because it's not old, we're going to order a new slide for that.
And a little bit out of sequence with Timber's presentation, I guess it'll just fall in line with this, is that council really did push us to start building some more parks too. But part of that agreement really was that we don't want to give up the work we have to do that Timber's really working on to renew new parks.
Yeah.
So not only do we hire some new staff to do the construction of new parks, we have staff that really is focused on the renewal of our park system too, so that we don't lose that momentum that we've had. So we're still behind, but Tim will talk about more how we're going to try to get there, and council's been really good about giving us the dollars to try to get the new parks built, but also giving us the resources to maintain what we have.
Yeah. And we see your maintenance team and the guys cleaning the bathrooms and the garbage, so we love you guys, and we're just thrilled that like we have almost a park, within a mile of everyone's home.
Yeah.
So
Okay, thank you, Jen.
thank you.
Seeing the public, so you heard, we can move on to old business. There is no old business. The first new business is separate.
Great. All right, so good evening, everybody. If you don't know, I'm Tim Bertossi. I'm your park superintendent. So a couple of years ago, David kind of challenged us with coming up with a way that we could assess our parks, figure out the condition rating of all of them, and then be a really consistent way that we can set kind of like a menu, if you will, of what an A, B, C, and D level parks are. So we came up with a grading system of how we were going to do that. It was probably a year ago. I was like, David, I think I got it. It's called Total Parks Health. It's a way of looking at the system as a system, right? It's a system of systems. It's not just the parks. It's budget constraints. It's usage levels. It's sustainability. It's everything. How do we look at this collectively? And not only that, how do we inform the residents of Longmont where we're at in growing that system or maintaining that system? So we came up with this idea called Total Parks Health.
You Timber just started watching Ted Lasso after.
Yeah, I
you
didn't.
came up
I
with
didn't.
the name.
David's like, you got to go watch Ted Lasso. So we came up with this concept of Total Parks Health, and what it is, it's 8 business functions, which are also tied to the Longmont indicators. So we're looking at automation, global initiatives, operation planning needs and projections, budget planning and finance management, development renewal and long-range planning, reporting and data management, work management, staff culture development, and then condition rating and customer satisfaction. And that's all part of the Total Parks Health system. So it really is a system of systems.
And Timber is a systems guy.
Yeah, I am a system guy, so long-range planning is kind of what I do. So yeah, it all coming together, kind of fitting into this Total Parks Health system. Any question on this? Please feel free to ask me questions along the way. This is still very high-level conceptual.
You're gonna go through each of these areas?
Yes.
Okay.
That's what I'm going to do is go through each of these series. So the first one is condition rating and customer satisfaction. So we never really had a good way of rating our assets out there. What we really relied on is life cycle. So when was it installed? How long were we expecting it to last? Because of usage and other things, assets don't last as long as we hope they do. So Total Parks Health works to develop a shared understanding between internal and external stakeholders for service levels that are directly related to maintenance, budget, recreation program, and environmental stewardship. So what we did is Parks and Forestry Operations, along with the Parks Development team, came together. We had a bunch of white paper or papers up here on the wall. We're like, hey, how would you set a condition rating on a playground or a bed or turf or all the amenities that we have out there in the park system? And everybody came together, and what they established was a letter grading system of A, B, C, and D. So an A level is really that gold standard. If we had all the money in the world and all the people in the world, we can make it look like this. Or it's brand new. And then from B, it steps it down a level. So this is a range we try to maintain all assets to. Most assets decline very quickly from an A level, right? You have it out there, it's used a couple times, and all of a sudden it's a B. So this is really the level that we're hoping for in our neighborhood parks. We're going to try to get to an A level in our community parks because those are really a shared asset with the community, right? It's there for everybody to use. We want it to be nice and safe for the whole community.
And Timber did the job right, because again, we made that commitment. We're trying to do that at the beginning of the season, but they're the ones that program them, and they're the ones that have the staff out in their use, and trying to balance that. So it's tough for Timber Group to continue that. So our goal is to try to start the season at that A.
Yeah, so starting in May as the season goes on, if it degrades a little bit, okay, but we have a plan in place to get it back up to an A. That's the whole part of this. There's a plan. We're making conscious decisions to get it back up to an A.
Can you talk a little bit more about
Sure.
D? I don't totally understand.
Yep. So a C level is an asset that really has been identified as needing renewal. So Flanders Park, I would actually call Flanders Park getting close to a D, right?
Oh, yeah.
So we've identified it in our asset renewal plan that it needs to be replaced, but we haven't yet identified the funding mechanism to replace it. So that's really, we're slipping down to that D level, right? It's starting to fail. So this is an asset that does not have adequate funding to maintain at the B level. However, through Total Parks Health, we'll make a conscious decision to defer renewal of asset. So when we look at Flanders, a couple of years from now, we have to redo Clark. Well, do we push Clark back a little bit and redo, get all these playgrounds done? For us, it doesn't really, I don't want to say it doesn't matter, but we want to provide the information to everybody to say, look, let's make a decision on it. We may not have all the funding available. We may not have all the people to do it, but let's make a conscious decision that we're going to move Flanders to, let's say, 2028. Or we're going to defer Clark a little bit, and we're going to do Flanders in 27, whatever it is. We want to have a mechanism to do this.
And I think that's for me, Timber talk about the amendment piece. It's the piece that I can go back to the public and to council and then say, decision piece. If we want to have all B parks, Timber knows what it's going to cost. We have this amount, now we have to make some decisions. You don't get the side, you don't get the dessert with it. We can do a C-level park, what we have. If you want these, it's going to cost this much. So as we make budget decisions, we really go in and you should have that shared idea. And for me, it's just great to hear Timber C, it said it's slipping to a D, and you agreed. When I first got here, I'd ask people how it looks, and it's like, well, it's not scheduled for renewal for 20 years, so it's good. I talk to the park staff, and they say it's okay. I talk to rec staff, they say it's horrible. I talk to the neighbors and say, I love the flower beds, everything else. So there's just this discrepancy, and when people would tell me what the park looked like, it was like, what are we trying to achieve and have that shared vision? I think that see the two of you agree is just kind of great for me to see where that point.
The other part is customer satisfaction. So we do integrate our work management system, and then ServiceWorks is the call. If you have a complaint or something, you call into ServiceWorks. So we track those weekly. So if we're looking for trends that are out there to see if we need to make service adjustments. We're getting a lot of calls about restroom cleaning. Well, what's going on with the restrooms? So we track those weekly in our leadership meeting, and we want to be able to make quick adjustments on service levels. The other thing is the every 2-year customer satisfaction survey that the city does that we rely on pretty heavily. I think we get pretty good on restrooms, but it's hard.
How do you disseminate that customer satisfaction survey? Because I don't believe I have ever received one that I know of. Yeah, I'm like the park.
You would answer. You would answer if you got it, right?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I mean.
They're random, aren't they?
Yeah, they're random, it goes out there.
Oh,
It's
okay.
everything.
They're
It's
random, so they
everything. It's
might
not just
not.
parks.
Yeah,
It's not
so-
just parks.
everything.
So, not that you're asking for ideas,
No, I love it.
but, okay, I've had this idea since my family was in her family stage. That they're, like, to have a core. In my head, it's mom core, but it's also dad core, or, grandma, or, babysitter core, of people that are assigned to parks, and they're parents, and they're taking their kids out there, and they're getting paid. And they're not getting paid huge amounts, but they're getting paid for their work, and their job is to go to 2 or 3 parks a week and play on them and let you know how it's doing. Like, because you're already going to the park that often. And if you're like, hey, we get to go to Left Hand Park this week or whatever, you have a core. And and often people with young children can use just a little bit of spending money. It's like, we're not talking huge amounts, but just a little bit of, it might be even a stipend or that kind of thing, just a little bit of extra to make their lives more fun, or maybe they're paid in rec passes or something like that. But I think if you paid them with actual dineros, they would be more likely to actually hit those parks. And they see it from a different point of view, because your kids' scratch on their butt is a whole different point of view than one of your guys going, it looks good, and they would. And they're looking at the dog poop, and that kind of stuff, like all the stuff they need to. But the parents are seeing, hey, there's no sand underneath this swing, and I'm afraid my kid's gonna die if they're on the swing, or they keep getting their hands punched or something like that, So
I think, so Timber's gonna probably get to that in a little bit here, as we're starting to work with the staff. One of the goals really is making this accessible. Nope, we haven't talked about paying people or anything yet, but honestly, getting that wiki level of input so that you can start seeing those trends that, all right, overall, maybe it's looking good, but this demographic of parents are saying there's a challenge out there. So as Timber looks at sort of that big data piece of it, we can start saying, is there something that we've been missing as park staff that's looking at certain things, but the mom with kids, that's the goal at some point. Right now, he's just working into his staff to start grading and scoring and see if we're on the same page. But once we get that bigger ability for people to put input, it gives Timber more data to help make those decisions.
Yeah, what's nice, and we've spent the last 10 years doing this, all the assets are mapped now. So you could, you put a little QR code on that playground, and somebody scans it and says, they pull up the condition rating and go, how would you rate this playground? Well, it's a D. Or it's an A, based on, so this is just an example of turf.
And his staff is saying it's an A. I'll be like, why is the public saying we have a D and your staff saying we have an A?
okay, that's a good idea too.
So we went through every asset in the city we came up with a condition rating for. So this is just an example of turf that walks through A, B, C, and D. So just for an A, grass is in excellent health, vibrant and free from disease, pests, weeds, or damage. Grass cover is excellent with no base or patchy areas. Grass is vibrant, colorful. So that would be an A. And then you got down there a D, right? That we don't want to see that. So grass is in poor health, terrible coverage, there's drops everywhere, there's trip hazards, grass is sparse and thin. So we did this for every asset, so benches, trash cans, playgrounds, buildings, each one of them has a condition rating. We haven't done them yet, we haven't gone out and actually rated everything yet, that'll be the goal for next year. But there is a rating for everything.
Are they equal, weight? Are they weighted equally?
No, that's something we haven't gotten into yet, is weighting, right? So.
Right, cause like, I don't care about the grass, but
Right,
I
it's a
might care
playground.
about, I might care about the volleyball court or.
So that would be something that would be really helpful for the public. Like, what's important for the public, right? Does it even weight the playgrounds heavier than the turf or the beds? Or
You might
Maybe
maybe
some
that
type-
information by how many people
Right.
rate them.
The place or place thing too, that start bringing in more information on who's coming, what assets you're using, so yeah, I think that's.
Great. The next, development renewal and long-range planning. So the goal of asset renewal program is to ensure that each asset within the park, trails, and nature are safe and functional. Each asset that needs to be replaced or renewed will have funding identified a minimum of 3 years out. So we're trying to say that if the projects in the CIP at 3 years out, we don't touch. They're funded, they're in there, they're good to go. 4 to 5 years out, we may have a little bit of flex, and we might work on those a little bit. But really the goal is to identify all the assets at least 10 years out. Okay, we might have funding identified at least 10 years out, but at least there's a plan and we all know what the schedule is going to be for 10 years out.
Is that what, level 1, level 2, is that what we're kind of talking about?
So level 1, level 1 and level 2. So level 2s are nice to have, right? Level 1 is an ongoing service. Really what we're talking about here for renewal is, those don't even really fall into a level, right? They're just, we've identified that this asset needs to be renewed, and we're making a conscious decision to say, it's gonna get reviewed here, and we have X number of dollars in that 5-year CIP plan.
So we know they're on our radar, so it probably technically is a level 1, because we have the asset in play.
Right, it's in play, we gotta do something with it. It's just a funding mechanism, right? When Harold's gotta look at all that list.
If it gets bumped to, instead of 5 years to 6 years, it still gets funded at some point.
And they may know it's gonna drop down to that C level or D level, we can tell the public that it's funded the next year, but again, for me, it's a little bit of a crystal ball. My piece is, there should be no surprises for Harold and council. They know what's coming up renewal, and they have the ability to adjust that.
So yeah, it's identifying any asset that's scheduled to be replaced but cannot be replaced due to unforeseen circumstances. It need to be moved to the asset, so we're gonna move it, right? So Flanders, we know it needs to be replaced, but there's a bunch of other assets that gotta be replaced. It's just a conscious process to say, hey, we're gonna move that over to 2027 because we have additional funding that we're expecting, or there's not funding identified for the renewal funds. But this is how we're going to go through it. So we have a life cycle plan. So starting in October, really, we're going to run the asset life cycle condition rating report. And that'll show us every asset in the city that needs to be replaced from here until 50 years out. Whatever, we've got buildings that need to be removed from 50 years from now. So we're going to use that. So then once the life cycle would be, so we're going to run the life cycle report. So that's everything that we're expecting to need to be replaced. Then we're going to go out, we're going to use the condition rating tool that we developed to say, okay, maybe this bench doesn't need to be replaced next year. We can push it out another 5 years. So every asset in the park system is on that list. We're then going to go out and do a condition rating on it. We're going to add the condition rating to our work management system, which will then allow us to do reporting on it, mapping, whatever we need to do. So from there, we're going to update the 10-year plan. So if we can't get in that 5-year plan, we might push it to 6, 7, 8 years out. But it's there, and then it gets rolled in as we move through the CIP planning process.
This might help. This group is always, we had that 5-year planning window, and it's always feel like you can't have any input because we're already locked into that 5-year plan. looking out 10 years gives us a little bit more flexibility and knowing that we can maybe make some of those adjustments and bring this group into those conversations a little bit too.
Within that 5-year planning timeline, though, this kind of goes into the level 1, level 2 request, is there's master plan projects, we gotta project the staffing needs, some of those end up as level 2s. We also gotta do equipment needs, there's training needs that may be coming with that, so the synthetic fields out of Dry Creek, we are on these synthetic fields, so there's staff training that's gotta be involved with that. There's also just ongoing operational budget needs that we have to consider. And then the new park is going to need to be renewed at some point. So we want to make sure that that data gets, so Clover Meadows, all these new parks we're building, all that data gets put in and there's life cycles assigned to it. And then that helps us do data-driven planning and community needs assessments. And then it all starts over again. We update the 10-year plan, goes back into October, and we move forward. Questions on this?
I have a question, I think, and I don't know if you're gonna touch on it, but you touched briefly on the word sustainability conversation.
Yep.
I have found in my time working on CIPs that it's often something that's not thought of until the very last minute.
Okay.
Oh, we didn't put low impact development or high efficiency lighting, or we want to put solar on this outbuilding, and there's no money for it because no one thought about it.
Yep.
So I'm wondering if early on in some of the CIP processing, you're going to engage with some sustainability folks or other folks at the city.
Yeah, so that the global initiative, I call them global initiatives because they
I was wondering if
right,
that was
it's
what that
like
was.
Electrification,
Yeah.
water-wise landscape
Yeah.
conversions, reduction of pesticides. Those are all citywide initiatives, they're not just parks.
Global part too. So that maybe we're gonna talk about it later. Okay.
It's best to remind you.
When you come to, what we're doing CIP though again, like it's
Yeah, right.
early on in the
Now
process.
those projects do go through the sustainability of.
The SES.
Yes, that's yes.
So this is hard to read, but just to highlight what this is. So through that planning process, so this is the 5-year CIP that Stephanie has developed. Through what is Stephanie's team? Parks Development.
Yeah.
So these are all the projects they have. So there's master plan projects in there, there's renewal projects in there, there's new projects, new parks. So, they've identified that out for 5 years. And then from the operations side, what we do is we plan out all the people that we're going to need to support those, right? So Clover Meadows, Clover Basin, Fox Meadows, Gallo, they all need people to maintain them. So we've identified the people and the equipment that we're going to need to build those out over the next 5 years.
And that's a piece of, I'm sorry, that council and Harold has made, things always happen, budgets change, you get tight, but the commitment really is, we don't want to build something we can't maintain it. And this again should be that idea, there should be no surprises looking out at timber. If we're outside of a new park out in 5 years, council already know it's going to take X amount of staff, so there won't be a surprise coming
So for example, in 2025, are you getting your 2 FTEs?
We did, yeah. So starting next year, we're going to so this is
That's for
this is
this
for
year.
the next year.
Oh,
So we did get,
Therefore.
this is actually 3. We didn't get Kaufman Street because Kaufman Street's not expected to be completed until the end of 2025, so we'll request a session.
So it might be 3 there on the 3 for that one and 3 for 2025.
And Timber will talk about how Harold was able to make this happen. I mean, again, beyond present, one, I'm sorry, Stephanie and Timber work a lot. Stephanie and Timber have been working this side by side on this stuff a lot. And then Harold has taken this commitment to doing the staffing seriously. And Timber will get to how we manage from the funding here later. If you have questions, we can talk about that too.
But the biggest thing is there's no surprises, right? So next year, we're going to request 3 FTEs to maintain Nino Gallo, Coffin Street expansion, and the Union Loop Trail, right? That's what's on the schedule to get built. So, and then the following year, we're going to request 2 people, and then we're going to request 1 person, and then hopefully we've kind of really it's Sandstone and Dry Creek holdouts that we're going to need additional people. Montgomery. Yeah, Montgomery. But we're trying to identify that all out so there's no big surprises for everybody. And then there's just ongoing operational needs as well. So FTE positions, vehicles are really expensive. Contractor support, so additional restroom cleanings we contract out. So we're trying to project that out for the next 5 years. All right, budget planning and finance management. So we really want to understand in that 5-year plan the money we have available from multiple sources. We can project out those projects that are going to fit into that budget. So we have several budgets that we can tap into. So there's the parks maintenance budget, which comes from the general fund. That's there to maintain the parks, trails, and nature areas. We also oversee the municipal grounds maintenance budget, so that's things to maintain this building, the civic center, library, really anything that's at the safety and justice building, we do all that maintenance. And then we also oversee the arterial maintenance budget, which comes 100% out of the street fund as of next year. So that's the right-of-ways that we're responsible for maintaining. We also oversee the forestry maintenance budget, so that's out of the general fund as well. The forestry invasive species budget comes out of the tree mitigation fund. So if a developer comes in, they cut down a large tree, there's a value to that tree. It's not, so city forester has a matrix that he goes through, and he can put a value on that tree, and then through that we get funds back from the developer that we use for EAB mitigation, any invasive species type stuff, tree plantings come out of that fund. We also have the Parks Grants and Donation Fund. So there's Kanemoto family has a little bit of money that they give us every year for maintaining the Tower of Compassion. We also apply for grants periodically. So the big forestry grant we got starting for next year, we'll go to that account. Open space and parks maintenance. So we maintain some properties that were purchased with the open space fund. So open space does provide us with some funding to maintain those properties. And then conservation trust fund. So this is through the state. Part of it is, so you'll hear GOCO. So Great Outdoors Colorado is 50% of that. Conservation Trust is 40%, and then Colorado Parks and Wildlife contributes 10% to that. That's another funding mechanism we can look at. And then the Parks and Green Maintenance Fund, which is the $2 fee that residents pay every year on their water. So this is really Stephanie and Jennifer and I. So knowing that we have all of that funding available, we can look at historically what we have got from all of those funds, and we can project out over the next 10 years what we're expecting from those. The green line is our typical funding that we receive from the parks. This is really the Parks and Greenway maintenance fee. And you can see that after, 2025, we really started to develop a gap. So, sorry. So you can see, so what we did for 2025 is the 3 new FTEs for, so the new FTEs for Fox Meadows and Culver Basin are coming out of the Parks and Greenway. So we projected out, if we have to add those positions for Fox Meadows, Nito Gallows, Sandstone Phase 4, Dry Creek, the funds that we need for each of those. And we kind of run out of money. That's probably another conversation for a different time.
Yeah. So the blue is funds that you know about?
Yep.
That are like secured?
They're secured.
And that's where Harold, again, this year, I heard Harold say over and over, there's no new general fund positions. This group got a bunch of new positions, which people like, how did that happen? And that's where Harold really said that if we're bringing people in, people are a known cost, what they're going to cost, and that $2 that was coming to the Greenway Fund is a known piece. And tying them to other tax sources that fluctuate, you get GOCO, others that go up and down, they're not consistent. He had a hard time looking at funding people out of that. So he really went ahead and took those park and greenway maintenance fees, which are a number we know based on the number of people here and their $2 that we can fund those with. So that's how we ended up with those positions in parks.
Yeah, I mean, if we didn't have those people there taking care of things, we'd have to put up a fence and hire 2 more police officers to keep people out. So, you've got to do something if you have this in the plan already and then rebuild. And
this is where, as you get short, then the decisions have to be made. It will be another conversation. I don't want to get too far ahead of Harold. If you really think about it, there are this is where renewals come in. People, you can't just say, we're going to put off, this person going to take off the next 6 months, we're going to bring them back in 6 months, but you can push a renewal out if you don't have the dollars. So those are things we have to look at. We can talk to council saying, we know we have these renewals coming up, we're short, how do we fill that gap? Is it?
So we'll find out from the from the new technology of showing, hey, we are getting just twice or 3 times the number of people on.
Right.
I mean, what are the different sources you could look to make up this gap?
So we can look at conservation trust funds. So we know there's some fluctuation in there of what we can spend that money on. Some of it goes to contracting. So you can shift. These are decisions that we're trying to make, right? So if we know we need, let's say, $2 million in 2025, well, let's split 10% conservation trust. Let's do 90% parks and greenway. Let's do 10% somewhere else. We know the dollars that we have from each one of these. It's just allocating which projects to put in this.
So that's not figured in that graph already?
Not in this one. There's another one,
Okay.
which we were right.
The conservation trust is one that the city had kind of made a commitment that those dollars are going to go to finishing the greenways first. So that's why they're not really shown there. Those are committed really to doing greenways. But once those greenways get done, this board, years before Timber and I are here and other councils really said that once the greenways get done, those can be up for because rec could use those, the library can use those, the museum could use those. So I think it's be a very, again, deliberate conversation. How do we fill these gaps? What does the library need? What does the other areas need? And I'll just say it, we have to, is $2 enough on that utility bill? So that's probably the other way that we'd have to look at it.
Reporting and data management. So how are we doing and are we staying on track? So how do we inform the public of progress? Are we doing things equitably across the community? Put Placer in there. We've talked a lot about that. So Placer is a software that tracks cell phone usage. It doesn't track like who you are or demographics, but it shows where you've been. So we can see, hey, is Flanders really getting heavily used compared to, let's say, Thompson Park?
And are people coming in from around the city to Flanders to use that park?
So we're looking at that tool, but there's all kinds of data out there now. So we've got Longmont indicators that we want to link our parks information to Longmont indicators so we can track where we're going. We're doing daily reporting now, weekly reporting on things like camp cleanups, abandoned property. We've got GIS mapping now, so this is Roosevelt Park, all the lights in Roosevelt. So you could, if the playground's in there, you could go in and do a condition rating on that playground. It's all mapped now. We're also getting a lot of national-wide data. So the tree canopy assessment is a big one that Boulder County is trying to get a handle on. But really, that data is coming from national level satellite imagery. So
There's definitely lights
yeah, there are 280 lights.
Yeah, people that it's just crazy when people start to think about what.
But you're looking at efficient lighting?
Yeah, so that's another thing. Okay, we've got 280 lights at Roosevelt that we need to put out to upgrade LED lighting. It's another renewal project. Where does it fit in? Work management, staff cultural development. So work management and life cycle planning should feed all other data. So this are amenities that are out there are mapped. We've got condition ratings on them. That's the decision that we're trying to make. Integration of real budget and time tracking in the future. Are we developing staff to meet community expectations? Do we have this adequate staffing levels or expertise out there to do the level of maintenance that we're expected? We are really trying to create a learning environment. So we're going to reevaluate our monthly training program that we have established currently. We want to develop an internal skill-based training program. So the forestry department has a really good, they have standards, it's a profession. So they've got really good standards in place on if you're an arborist 1 or a senior arborist, kind of what you get trained on, right? And a checklist that you're qualified to move to the next level. On the park side, on the technician side, we don't really have that, so we got to build it. That's going to be a goal for next year. And then we want a clear understanding at all levels in the organization of what our maintenance expectations are. So that really goes in that A, B, and C, D level of service. And then we really want to be the leader of Boulder County in the front range on sustainable maintenance practices. It's something we think we're really good at and we want to share with everybody. We've done a ton of work out there. We've made some mistakes and we've learned a lot. So we're trying to be, everybody's like, well, what's Boulder doing? We want people to say, what's Longmont? This picture just highlights a little bit of what our technicians, so this is Roosevelt Park, all the things that they really need to look at when they go out there on a daily basis. So irrigation, is the tree okay? Are the sidewalks cracked? Do we can remove snow? The lighting, is all the lighting okay? Are the restrooms good? So they've got a lot to look at, but a lot of that really is integrated with our work management system. So they shouldn't have to make a ton of choices, but there's just a lot to look at.
Get on that. I just not making excuses for staff. Those are the things you talked about, maybe the mom core piece, where they're going out, they have this whole thing to look at. But honestly, when they go out there most times, it's because a punk's down or there's a head broken. So they kind of get a little bit of tunnel vision going in, and they're looking for that one they fix. But they're supposed to be looking at all that, and even their lens for the playground may be different than the mom who's getting the kids' pants ripped on the slide. I'll tell you, I've gone out with plant people and playground people and rec people, and they see the park totally different. I mean, my weeds guys, all they see is weeds everywhere. The rec guys see yellow spots in the grass, and the playground people are like, a kid's going to get his head stuck in this, and there's going to be a lawsuit. They don't see anything the same. It's a totally went to separate parks.
I'm sound like a broken record, but that's what I do. Sustainable maintenance practices include electric, lawn, and all of that. Okay.
So when 10 years ago, we developed kind of how the plan on how we're going to get, we didn't have a work management system. So we were, okay, how do we get all of that stuff on the previous slide into a work management system, a digital system, so we're generating work orders so that staff isn't missing things and we're actually able to report on things. So we got all the assets identified. We got lifecycle built into our work management system. And what's great this year, we got the condition rating is built. We know what we're going to rate things on. We've got to go out and rate things. And then that will help us do the data-driven needs assessment. So if we got a whole bunch of assets that are out there as a D, well, if they're beds, this goes into that. We're just going to leave the beds and call them a D, and that's, we all know that as a community. Great. But that really all feeds into the total park health. It's just the way that we make decisions. Automation. So we got to look towards the future. We're already starting to see it come in. We've automated quite a few things. So I talked about our work management system. Our irrigation system is completely automated now. We are just started this year doing a web-based system. So our old system communicated through radio frequencies. So you'd have to send out a radio call and come back. It was really inefficient. The new system is web-based. So we just go on and we program it. It's digital and it just sends it. We got 218 clocks to do those, so it's going to take us a little time to get through that. Pump station monitoring. So we have these very large raw water pump stations that are really expensive. So anywhere between $500,000 and $1 million pump stations. All of those are monitored now remotely, and it comes in and we get email notifications if something's wrong. AVL is our GPS tracking system for all of our trucks, so we can tell where people are, we get efficient with routing. And then just this year, we've got our new cameras. So we got 32 cameras now in the park system. They're not just monitoring for vandalism, right? If somebody calls in and says, hey, Timber, you got a full trash can at Collier Park, I can go onto the camera, zoom in, guys already got it, or guys and gals already got it. It's done. We got to understand how AI is going to impact our industry. We want to develop a digital twin so we can kind of run through testings and see how things are going. The big thing is we want to keep people still involved in the automation process. So what training are they going to need? I think recreation is getting a turf tank.
We've been working on it.
Okay. So turf tank is a line striping robot. They advertise that doing manual marking takes 2 people, 2 hours, about 5 gallons of paint. Or with a turf tank, it takes a person, and then it takes about 5 minutes to stripe it with a half a gallon. It's just more efficient. Scythe Robotics is a local company. They're building this really cool new, it's a robotic mower. I keep seeing people on them though, so it's not truly autonomous. I don't know quite what's going on with them, but really cool technology coming out. And then the top picture, the open space team just did spraying with a drone out at the range.
That was a project that would have taken probably a week to 2 weeks with people on ATVs. I personally have a friend in Boulder County killed on an ATV doing wind spraying, backpacks, and 2 weeks of work out there with people in that condition. This was a half day. Yeah.
Wow.
I haven't seen that.
Where did you say it was sprayed?
Out at the archery, the old landfill that's way out east, where the new trail's gonna go. So
Oh, okay,
it's-
okay.
Kind of a 5.5 basically. It was really super steep. You can't get equipment out there very easily. It's
Have you
really
guys, I'm sorry, approached the site about doing it?
Yeah, I've been there a couple of times.
Yeah.
They're not there quite yet.
What would be- I think the piece we've gone on, Tigger actually, just so you know, Tigger had this really early on. He had another group out here that was Longmont. We were actually.
Left-hand robotics.
Left-hand robotics was doing it too. So Tigger is really, he's been doing this for quite a while, but we've gone on. I think that because the way to make these effective is they're mowing 24/7 basically, which we really need our contractors to be the ones that are using these things, that they can just unload them, do ours as part of the system, then go to schools and do them, and then go to, because they're electric and quiet and they can run all the time. But I think you get your money back from them by them going as much as they can.
So that technology, probably the next 5 years, we're gonna see robotic mowing.
That's getting something like Ward or some group like that.
Right.
On it. Is there any incentive like a grant to have them?
Not that I'm aware of, but it's a good idea.
Because I'm just thinking that they would make that happen sooner than later if they had the proof that this
Right.
would work for them.
Wards has been working with Scythe Robotics. I know they have a contract, but I keep seeing somebody writing it. They just, I don't know if it's safety, they're just really apprehensive, but
It might be, you're just worried that some dog will get underneath their kid.
they are electric, so that's good.
I want to see a vacuum on the front of it.
Vacuum?
Yeah, so I want to see, because this isn't your thing, but you're going to tell them what we want, right?
Yeah.
I want a vacuum on it because it would suck up the trash
Oh, yeah.
before they hit it and spread it. And also suck up the weed seeds,
Oh,
yeah, before they get hit and spread. So, yeah. And maybe a Bun Back 2000 would suck up the bunnies and then put them.
yeah.
Some around there.
All right, global initiatives. So electrification of our fleet. So the city's got a 10% goal annual until complete. So if anybody's interested, that picture on the right is our yard out here. So we've got 10 new EV charging stations out back. They're level 2s. So those just went in a month ago. They're not on yet, but they will be. So we're getting there. A big one that we're trying to wrap our head around, we just found out, is Regulation 29. So that's the Air Emission Reduction Act. So as of June 1, so starting next year, June 1st, the city and its contractors will not be able to use anything between June 1 and August 31st that is under 10 horsepower that's not electric. We're ready for that. We've been converting to electric. So that's like line trimmers, backpack blowers, chainsaws, all of our chainsaws, all that stuff we electrified years ago. We actually have a bunch of grants for it. So we're doing good there. Our contractors are not. So I'm gonna have to work with them over the winter to get ready for that. But there's a bunch of state grants available to get them where they need. So yeah, it's the state's saying,
Yeah.
nope, gotta do this.
7 kW
Yeah.
piece of equipment isn't nothing.
And any state agency is 25 horsepower. But it's all the infrastructure that comes along with that. So charging infrastructure, equity, that's another big one for us. So we're trying to target tree sales in hard to reach communities in the city. We're running out of places to plant trees in the park system. The only way that we're going to get our tree canopy where it needs to be at that 18%. We've got in the next one. The city's got an 18% target. We're at 16. The only way we're going to get there is to get trees planted on private property. So we're subsidizing the tree sale. We want to get trees in the community. This summer over at Kensington, they did a tree sale. They just went out with people and got them signed up and got them trees, which was great. I also want to do that with some plant sales. And then going into this whole total parks health and standards is we want to make sure we're maintaining neighborhood parks consistently across the community. Nobody shouldn't be in one part of the neighborhood or the community and it's one way, and in a different part of the community it's a completely different way. We want to have a standard that's the same across the community. And then through master planning, you want to make sure that there's equal access to all park amenities. Sustainability and tree canopy increase of the city's got an 18% target. We just found out that Boulder County is thinking about making the city go to a 24% target. What's nice is they've offered us a ton of incentives to make that happen, so we're still working through that one. It's really new. Water-wise,
How's that measured?
What's
That's
that?
that percentage measurement? Is that just top down overall area coverage?
Yeah, an average. So
Streets.
it's everything. So yeah, streets, parking lots, all that stuff we got to figure out.
Rental properties.
Rental property.
Is that, no, like that's where I'm looking at the equity is that there is so much rental property and those people they can't plant a tree, even if they want a tree to shade, they can't. So, yeah.
Yeah, so through the tree sale, we've got really, really expensive trees that are like $10 or something. So we're trying to close that gap. And then water-wise landscape conversions. So reduction in potable water usage, reduce non-functional turf. That's what you're going to hear a lot of, non-functional turf. So those are the turf spaces that just, it gets water and nobody uses it, right? We've got a couple demonstration gardens out there. The bottom right picture's over at Rogers Grove. The community garden that was over there kind of went defunct a couple years ago, so we converted that over to a water-wise landscape garden for the community to kind of demonstrate different varieties that you can use and plant. It takes 3 to 5 years for that to really get nice and established for the plants to grow in. It's got a lot of weeds, but Rogers Grove's, it's getting there. So if you haven't been out there, highly recommend going.
So your program with, and it may not be yours, but the garden in the box, that's just off the charts.
But yeah, so we worked with them and a lot of the plants that are out at Rogers Grove. So if you're curious, you're getting this garden in a box, you can go over to Rogers Grove and see what it's going to look like for a couple of years. I think that's it. That's your global initiative stuff. That's it.
I have a question on the service works. It works well with streets. It doesn't work well like in parks.
It doesn't work.
Because it always asks for an address, and you're like bench here or something. And you're like, so you have to then convert that input.
So there is an option in there where you can drop a pin.
Yeah.
If you do it from your phone.
Right.
But yeah, usually I got to figure out where it is. So service works has turned out to be a pain in my butt, to be honest.
Because it'd be cool if you could just pick the asset, right?
Yeah,
If it was
right.
attached to your system, you'd be like, oh, this is the asset I'm talking about. It's already there. You don't have to.
And he has them all mapped, right?
Yeah, they're all
Right,
mapped.
yeah, so there should be something.
Yeah, there's something, you should just be able to click on that bench and say it's this bench.
Or like, I mean,
Right.
QR code thing, QR reader, for broken sprinklers and stolen bridges.
Anything else?
That's cool.
So yeah, hopefully next year you'll start seeing some condition ratings come in, and we'll be able to do mapping from that. So that's where you show, you can do like Lunar Park is a D, and it's got all the assets average.
Do you anticipate that condition rating will be available online for like public viewing?
So trying to get as much online.
Because I won't be on the board anymore, so I still
Yeah.
want to see it.
Yeah, well, it'd be a good way to look at equity too.
Exactly.
It's to see where the deeds are.
I was gonna ask if you were gonna overlay it with that vulnerability map.
Yeah. So we got the climate vulnerability map. We've got, let's see, there's another one that looks at, it's like,
There's some like health data.
yeah, there's health data in there, right? There's a bunch of different data that we can look at, but we want to integrate Parks Health on that, so we can say, okay, let's not replace that playground with a playground. Let's do we're doing this workout thing over in
Then you said you put that Service Works in March. Did you hear anything back?
I even went and prep for this meeting, I even went and tried to ping the number and it was just,
It drives me crazy.
Nothing.
I'm sorry,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's crazy.
Always
It's
six,
closing the
always six.
loop and just not being able to respond. And the response may not be what people want to hear, but just
Yeah,
somehow letting people know that if we didn't answer it, we will continue to work.
yeah, no, I get it. And
It's
place
a
your,
problem with it's
Yeah.
a problem with the software.
the place your AI stuff and scold me if I'm talking in turn. I used to work in big market research data.
Yeah.
And there was someone who now works at Placer AI, and I was like, oh, what do they do? I was like, oh, that's what they do. So from survey, like, yeah.
We have a really hard time to determining when we remove an asset. So roller hockey courts. If nobody's using them, but we don't, unless somebody's going to sit out there and do the survey, right?
Yeah.
Or Placer AI will be able to go and go, well, look, nobody's using these amenities.
Exactly.
Well, let's repurpose them to something else.
Yeah. I recommend it.
Good, that's good feedback.
So I have a question on when you like that, well, if that's okay. Way back at the beginning of the slides where you were saying, I'm just thinking of Michelle, Elizabeth, sorry, I don't know why I thought, okay, so Elizabeth saying, the slide's down, and then you're like, well, that's slated for, like if one asset is down in something, does it have to wait until like the whole park renewal? Because, okay, it could be repaired unless the whole playground has to be repaired because you can't find the Legos to fit the Duplos.
Yeah, so this goes into the decision-making matrix too. Once you pull all those assets, you may see that, okay, you've got all the lighting at Roosevelt needs to be done, plus all the lighting around Dawson needs to be done.
Mm-hmm.
Make those into one project. The playground decisions, we're trying, all of Flanders needs to be done, the shelter needs to be replaced. What we're trying to do is get out of that process. So Garden Acres, all of Garden Acres needs to be replaced. Overall, everything needs to be replaced because they've been deferred for 50 years. So absolutely everything's failing. What we're trying to get out of is get into a cycle where, so think of Clover Meadows. There's certain assets in there that are going to fail at 20 years, some are going to fail at 50 years. What we're trying to get away from is that we're just doing the whole park 50 years from now. Let's do the playground in 20 years.
Okay, that's what makes
Yeah.
it, because I was picturing, well, the kid's gonna be 14, but there'll be a slide, great,
Yeah, there is that little bit of, like Timber said, that if it's just a slide and the renewal is 5 year old, we're gonna fix the slide.
Yeah,
If it's
Okay.
the slide and the restroom and the bathroom and the lights and it's up for renewal next year, then it might be the decision that we're not gonna fix the slide right now, we do it.
Okay, yeah, I remember my frustration being a Kanemoto Park neighbor, and then we had the flood, everything, I'm like, well, you know what, my kid, in his formative years, had 4 years he couldn't use his park. And I was like, I don't care about the turf, I just want him to be able to play, you know what I mean? Like, that was, so I can feel how you would feel, because, when they're 4 is when they're using the slide.
but the goal of Total Parks Health is there's no surprises. We're all here in the community, we make a conscious decision that, maybe we don't have enough money this year, but next year we'll put it in there. And we can communicate that too, right? When's Flanders getting replaced? 2028.
It looks like you did a really good job of building the data to then examine it and say, do we have the right inputs? We think we do. Okay, what are the decisions you can now make now that you have this box of data?
Yeah, that's where we're at. We've got the data now. Now it's what decisions are we going to make? Are they layer that on global initiatives, equity, sustainability?
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for all your work on the
Thanks. All right, business fee, credit cards.
Credit card fees, yeah. I'm Sue Ellen Rao, and I'm a recreation area supervisor, and primarily work with business and marketing. And today I'm going to talk to you about credit card fees and the changes that are coming soon. Now, the credit card fees that I'm going to talk about tonight, they only apply to credit card payments that are made through RecTrack and WebTrack, so at facilities or online registering for programs. Now, the ability to pass through a credit card fee to the customer It's dependent upon the credit card processor being used. Elavon is our current credit card processor, and they are not able to pass through credit card fees. PayTrack, the credit card processor that we're moving to, they can. Recreation will continue to use Elavon for credit card charges that occur outside of RecTrack. So the Union Reservoir kiosks, mobile credit card readers, and a type of credit card reader that we call a two-step that operates outside of RecTrack. Any charges that happen on those devices will not pass through the credit card fees, and we'll continue to pay those internally. City priorities, there are three main reasons why we're changing credit card processors now. A big one is that the payment card industry standards, they're adopting a more complex and stringent security standard that goes into effect on March 2025. It's a big deadline in the world of credit cards. Some of the changes have little cost associated with them. For example, we'll be moving all of your password requirements to 12 characters for both staff and for people, customers online. That one doesn't cost a lot. Other things cost a lot more, and they will become much more expensive and complicated if we continue to operate as we do now with staff at the front desk. Now, for example, to be compliant with, if you're doing manual credit card entry, if someone's calling on the phone, to be compliant, you'll need to type the number in to a separate credit card reader that then sends the information back and forth. Our current readers with Elavon, they're not able to accept manual credit card entry into the reader itself. So right there, we're not compliant. So in order to be compliant, if we stay with Elavon, we'd have to use a costly workaround to make the computers more secure. And that starts going into a lot of expense. So if we move to PayTrack, we eliminate the computers from the security requirements completely, because no credit card information ever goes onto the computer. Next one is by the end of 2024, Recreation is on track to pay $139,000 in credit card fees with no revenues collected to offset it. With a customer fee pass-through, the customers who use the credit cards will pay the fees associated with their purchases. And in anticipation of this change, the 2025 recreation budget line item that we use to pay credit card fees, well, it's been mostly eliminated. They've taken that money.
You know what percentage we're talking about? The ones that I've used are like 4% or something like that.
Right, it'll be 3%.
Was there any consideration to retaining those funds within the recreation budget? Rather than just eliminating, just to fund other things that need
It was
funding?
never funded.
I don't have a say in how the budget comes down like that. I will say that while that amount was taken away, we did have an influx of funds into recreation in other areas that surpasses that amount. So yes, I'd really like to have seen that stay.
When you say that though, aren't these fees already baked into the price? You don't assume since
Actually,
the transactions are probably
that's actually illegal to do.
We couldn't raise our
That's
fees 3% across the board in anticipation of that.
We know the rec department that shall remain nameless that does that. It's not legal to do it that way.
You could have the payment show the 3% fee at time of sale, but the system couldn't do that instead.
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit more about that. And then the final thing that has made this possible to happen now is that a non-recreation department stepped forward to fund the costs associated with improving the infrastructure around the front desk workstations so that we can actually change to PayTrack. There are some changes that need to happen. So what is changing? It's a 3% fee that will be added to the credit card sales. That 3% fee is paid directly to the credit card processor, PayTrack. None of that money is paid to the city, and the city doesn't pay that money back to the credit card processor. That separate line item goes directly to the processor, stays with the processor, does all that stuff. Nothing ever hits a city GL. And on receipt and communication with the customer, it's a separate line item. You may have seen something like that on other receipts that you've gotten, where you've got the cost of your sale, and it says a credit card processing fee, and then your total. That's something that we're seeing for full transparency with our stuff. And this will affect both online and facility transactions.
And that is what allows it to be legal, is that we don't collect that money, it goes directly past us.
It never hits our GLs. There are no fees for cash or check payments, so the customer does have a choice. Online, we do an ACH, it's called an ACH, but it's a bank draft that you can do at checkout time. That will not have a 3% fee. And you can always go to our facilities and pay with cash or check.
Debit's not an option, debit's not a fee.
No, I think it's treated like a credit card. The ACH would be as if it came strictly
I understand.
Yeah.
Usually you can get debit with lower fees, but because you treat ACH, like you can treat it as credit or as a debit.
Mm-hmm.
You can run it as a Visa or run it as a checking account transaction, but now most people have a debit card and don't carry a checkbook is what I'm asking.
Right now, my understanding of it will improve with our specific training as we get there. Oh my goodness, I'm dancing ahead and that's fun. But my understanding right now is down to the cash and the check.
Does this at all play into, because we pay, something just moved to ACH instead of a credit card fee, so the next slide, the utilities, so there's these various billing entities, and I'm looking at you, council, these billing programs, like, does it make sense to for everybody to use the same thing if they provide the individual services needed, or does it still make sense to have unique processors for utilities versus Nextlight versus all that?
For recreation, we use our software that we use is RecTrack, and it only plays well with certain things. So we've looked at that as a cost savings to put it all under one credit card processor, but then we also have the same problems with some other folks that their software talks with these banks and these ones with this one.
I get what you're saying. You're just saying, let's have the account here in the ACH with the bank routing number and your account number, and then you say, oh, I want this to go to next slide. I want this to go to my utility billing, and I would like this to pay for my kid's pass for.
Yeah, I think Longmont has a uniquely high rate of municipal services versus most municipalities.
Yes.
There's opportunity to centralize that at some
I
point.
think, I don't wanna speak out of turn, but with some of the new customer interface, CIS, CRM stuff, I think some of it's gonna be consolidated. For 2006, I don't wanna speak for rec specifically.
I want to buy Longmont credit card just to cover everything.
Well, I just think that why probably things are not jumping to that. This is the last year that Jim Golden's there. So to throw that on top of him when it's likely it will be a new person that will bring in new ideas and maybe even these concepts would be kind of something to look at. But I can bring this up to council.
Again, I think some of the customer facing stuff is gonna be integrated through a couple of efforts to cities.
Yeah, sorry.
Some improved services and security will come with the pay tracks. One of them is that our new credit card readers will add tap and Apple Pay. So we're excited about that. And this is a picture of one of the things that we'll be getting. And any manual credit card entry, you type it directly into the reader, not the computer. The computer is completely removed from the scope of security, which is a very cool thing.
And I'm sorry, can I ask a question?
Mm-hmm.
Will this be on that Union as well then?
Union Gatehouse.
Union Gatehouse.
Yes.
So they will typically drive up and tap.
Apple Pay tap. We're spooked.
Not the kiosk.
Not the kiosks. The kiosks stay on their little island.
Just off the line a lot.
With the senior day, yeah, very much so. There was a lot of, I worked there on a senior day in May, and the number of people who were Venmoing the one person who had the credit card that could actually take payment at the gatehouse was a very fun circle of, I just need money, okay, I'll pay rent free, so apple pie will be a good thing. So when is everything changing? Well, the timeline starts with the data port, and it has 6 steps. The data ports have to be installed first, and then they'll sign contracts, purchase credit card readers, get the staff training, prep the customers, and go live. We've done as much front work as we can. The contracts are just ready to be signed. They've been approved by both people. We're just waiting for the time to sign it. The credit card readers, we make an order on day 1, and they arrive on day 5. So they're in stock, they're ready to rock and roll. Staff training needs about 4 hours of back end work to consolidate or to how to reconcile these new credit card reports. And then we'll share this information with the customers and then we'll go live. So timeline is 6 to 8 weeks after the data ports. Currently our front desk workstations have 1 data port, and to go to PayTrax, each front desk workstation needs to have 2 data ports. And upgrading those data ports at workstations, it's a large project that involves 7 year-round and 4 seasonal sites, and each site presents its unique construction challenges. Centennial Pool is a brick bunker. The Union Gatehouse is out in the boondocks, and it's this little building. The rec center actually is the one that staff feels going to be the most complicated because they have to figure out how the data drops came in. Did they come in through the walls or under the ground or through the columns? And so they have some investigational work. We saw last week that staff were at the Longmont Recreation Center trying to find that information out so they could get an idea of the scope of the project for that particular site. And then Recreation also heard that the projects were going out to bid for contractors to come in and make those changes in October. The city ETS staff has said that data ports will be completed at all the year-round sites by the end of the year. They just don't have that, exactly dialed down. But once somebody starts doing anything at any site, we're going to start the clock on the timetable and start getting everything rolling. Should be happening soon.
There's a backside to that we only have funding through January to pay credit card fees. So we need to see this done and rolling by the end of January. So we're ready to go.
Did you ever, was there messaging ever to the public to ask them to not use credit cards?
We haven't started doing our messaging. We do have a plan.
Look, I had no idea it cost the city 3% of everything I was charging. I would have used a check or could pay a different way, right? Like, is there messaging that this is costing the city $150,000 a year to the public because they could use different ways to pay for it?
It varies. Points we have,
Yeah.
it just gets jumbled with everything else.
But when I walk up to pay for, the climbing wall or the pool, and I use my credit card, it's gonna say, it's not $6 or $7, it's gonna say $7 plus 3%. That's where, to your point, I think we need to probably have people educated that that's been covered thus far for decades.
And it's grown significantly over the few years, because I can remember it was like $68,000, and then it became $93,000, and it was $110,000, and this year it's $139,000. So it's not something that stayed steady. It's really gone up quite a bit as people buy and do more things and use credit cards. As far as getting the word out to folks, we'll be looking at using our emails. We have a constant contact weekly e-blast that goes out to 37,000 emails each week. We'll have signs at the front desk to help educate folks about their options, and similar to utility billing, where you had to relink your credit cards. If anybody has installment annual passes with us, they'll have to relink all their credit cards at that time. And maybe not do their credit card and do a bank. Bank thing could be cool. We'll use longmontcolorado.gov to help get that information out. We'll have it on Facebook and Instagram, and in the recreation brochure. Senior Services has their Go that will have information in there as well, as long with the museum newsletters.
So for payments I can understand how it would work for payments that you're doing online, where you could, instead of typing in your credit card number, you can type in your bank information. But for people like the councilman's example, like if they're walking up to the ice rink or whatever and they want to just pay for it and they don't have cash, they have a credit card, what will they do? So how will they type in their bank information?
They won't put in their
They
bank
can't do
information.
wholesale ACH.
So what will they do?
They'll either pay their
Pay
credit card, or they'll run to an ATM, get some cash, and come up with cash, or they'll pay their credit card fee, or their credit card.
So it's not
But
gonna
they'll
be
show
super
people.
convenient for walk-up. I mean, I think it'll be fine online, but walk-up will be challenging. Just because there's not that many people who carry cash or write checks.
Yeah.
So when,
I just don't.
The One Stop, they do the permits downtown, they added their 3% credit card, they added their credit card fee. They were one of the first groups that went to that. They didn't see any reduction in credit card utilization, they actually saw a huge increase in credit card utilization. So,
I'm not certain that you're going to see a reduction. I think what you're going to see is a uptick in complaints.
Yeah.
It's not the fact that people will stop doing it. They just are going to see that. That's where I think the communication part is probably critical.
If you've used a bank account to pay ACH through RevTrack for like registering for activity, can you have your account get charged from a lookup? Like, is that saved in the system?
you can put the people who work in front desk we just hired last week can't do this.
Right.
But if you go to the memorial building or a site, you can say, here's $50. Can I put $50 on my account? And we say, yes, you can put $50 on your account, and then you can pull from your own account.
That's a great feature. If you ever does that. It's not gonna cause problems. Like I said, people don't carry cash.
I think a new finance director might recognize this as the way of the future and to reduce the complaints, but I don't want to speak for whoever that is.
I'll just say, like, anecdotally, I was in the service industry forever and charged people credit card fees, and not one person ever said a thing to me about it being on their receipt. I know it might be a bit, but like, as a waitress, you're gonna people a thing, and then tax, credit card fee, how much the meal was, tips. I don't know if it's here in Colorado, but certainly in Wisconsin. And I use it's something that I don't think a lot of people pay that much attention to, or if you're paying for a lot of our classes, maybe it adds up.
Yeah, I agree. I think people would find that
I think
it's more people who are to have an option. That's great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like you have an identity with the city because you register for classes, you have a login for the site, but you go up to the ice rink and they're like, "Please pay me a credit card." You're like, "Can you just charge me what I already used to pay here?" And yeah,
I think we'll see an uptick in people getting the monthly or quarterly passes.
Which is cool because they cost less on staff time. If you pay it once and you buy one that expires, it's good for us. In conclusion, in 2025, we'll have the following situations in place. We'll be compliant with the newest PCI security standards. Our customers using credit cards will pay the associated credit card fees. At our different sites, people can use Tap and Apple Pay and Samsung, Google Wallet, different things like that. And we'll have a budget savings of over $120,000.
Questions or additional questions? Thanks, all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our last new business item is our November meeting date, which is supposed to be Veterans Day, I think. Was there a proposal, or is it up to me to suggest something?
I think we're okay with, I think, anything that you guys may come up with. You have the option to move it up, you can move it back, we can skip a meeting, those things are all on the table. We don't have any restrictions on our end, so
But we cannot meet on the 11th.
I'm not gonna be on that.
Any opinions from board?
I mean, I think our general thought is to avoid Tuesdays as council meetings on Tuesdays.
And a lot of council, including myself, will be out in Tampa Bay for a National League of Cities conference.
That week.
That's the 13th, 14th, and 15th. So,
So
and then the following Monday is sometime I have like other meetings, so I wouldn't be able to probably. I just have to look and see when the golf seems to be a little hit and miss.
It's
not a heavy
swing.
Jeff keeps track of items in the agenda, right?
It's a relatively light agenda. It doesn't have time sensitive items on it where we need feedback at that time. So I'm not encouraging any particular way, I'm just saying.
But when did we draw names for Secret Santa?
That's the board December, right?
Yeah.
Is everybody okay for the 9th? That's the next scheduled meeting.
The 9th of December?
Yeah, just so we're not like, it's not.
Yeah, I mean, if we
That
do
was right.
skip, I would ask that we not skip.
That's what I'm checking, yeah. Assuming we can all make it to December, I think I'm fine skipping it. Nothing pressing.
I can make it in December.
We can maybe do an email Secret Santa negotiation.
Should there's some sort of app.
So after that.
I was gonna say,
I'm sure.
I'm available, November is kind of a crazy month for me, so.
Great.
Mine's a little bit.
Probably
So,
motion
yeah, I
cancel that.
move that we cancel the plan November 11th, next recommended board meeting.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Yes. Very good. Any items from the packet updates from any of us?
Phase 13 or section 13 of the Greenway, sounds like it's not going well. So does that
It's-
in the domain for that process?
It's going as planned with that, yes. I think we're on track for the, yes.
Something well done.
Yeah.
This is a nice way of saying.
Yes, yeah, it's not going well, but in the not going well, it's going as planned. Okay. So I think we're on track to keep that moving. We have deadlines with those funds because of some of the grants that we're working on. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, that was gonna be my next part, was does it impact the timelines?
No, we're still able through that process to continue with what we need to do to spend those dollars that we have from CDOT.
And Nino Gallo was awarded today, so.
Nice!
Yeah,
14
without
days.
pickleball.
Sweet. What'd you say
Without
about pickleball?
Did
Sans pickleball.
Did you
They did reach, Wayne and that group reached out to the community there and they came up with a wavy track as the alternate.
Oh, that will be
That's awesome.
fabulous.
Yeah.
Great. That's awesome. Thanks.
We'll play pickleball courts.
Yeah.
I have a pretty specific question that will tie into something we're going to items from staff. Maybe it's super specific, but the bank swallow survey for RSP, do you know if that's actually found anything? It just says it's being conducted or something, and I'm very curious if they're actually bank swallow. There's a bank swallow
Yeah.
survey being conducted
Right
in
here.
RSP.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm curious if there's actually bank swallows.
No,
There were.
holes.
Yeah, they're.
Did they find anything during, it's being conducted, not right? Yeah.
I'm just sorry, I was just sitting here reading emails from Jim Crick to
Yeah.
someone else about that, so, I think Scott is working on that. I
Okay,
don't have
just
that
curious.
essentially update to the group, but,
If there, it would be curious.
It would be.
since they were.
Well, they do slough off, and they do have to go back and do that. That's one of the things that we knew too, that was kind of a transitory spot there, was it work this habitat. But
Yeah.
if you can get back to when staff goes, I can read through a couple of these emails that Jim was sending out. But I've been
Just curious.
GBC had asked the same question.
I've been curious for like 3 years, they're gonna find there, so.
Yeah, over the last 3 years they have been there. So
I've got a question about forestry. It said forestry has available online a tree pruning, removal, planting permit. I just was unaware of this process, so that means the neighbor who's cutting down the cottonwood tree has to have a permit, which, well, so can I mean, it's kind of a big deal, it's a big nesting tree, and it's also, not being done safely. It's pretty scary to watch right now. No, this is a privately owned, somebody, a guy climbing up and chainsawing tied
So
in
what was
the tree.
interesting is that in the municipal code, it said you must have a permit, and there was never a permit. So the forestry team developed a permit process this year.
Okay, so what would someone do? I mean, it's like totally an unsafe situation to do, like it's crazy, and it's by a renter that's cutting down the tree. It's crazy.
Where's that?
It's at 1302 or 1290 million or something. It's Cottonwood on the back. It's my next door neighbor. I'm at 1304 South Terry Street. It's one north of me.
I didn't quite track that. On privately owned property, the city code says you have to have a permit. This is city owned.
No, it's a city owned, if it's a city owned, so there are city owned trees that are maintained by the adjacent property owner, and they must get a permit.
Okay.
If it's a private tree though, you don't have to get a
Okay, so it
That's
probably is a private tree.
permit. Yes.
Okay, but still might be.
Yeah, that's,
It's,
well, I'm curious, is it a licensed contractor?
no, it's
Is
not a
it-
licensed
oh,
contractor.
That's who they can't.
Well, if it's a building.
Like it's 100%. This guy
Yeah,
gets
do it
free
forever.
rent to do stuff around the. I mean, it's terrifying to watch. Like my
Yeah,
husband's
yeah.
like,
How do we require a licensed contractor if there's no permit?
So in order to work in the city as a forester, you have to get a contract or a permit through the planning department. We license about 60 contractors a year, but yeah, you gotta get licensed in the city. It's like $60 or something.
I mean, I think it's probably different if you're just like trimming a branch or
Right.
something, and you know that
Yeah, that's
taking down
fine, but-
a 5-story cottonwood tree. That's,
There's forestry contractors out there that are definitely not licensed arborist. So.
yeah.
I think code enforcement will contact forestry.
Okay.
Typically, yeah. They'll have the city forester go out.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, like he was sawing on it this evening as it's getting dark and just terrifying. But
Other items from the packet?
I actually have a forestry related item, but I was gonna bring up during items from staff.
Or from the board?
From board,
Yeah.
sorry. So he's being staff, I'm sorry, always on the other side of the table.
All right, good. Items from staff.
I have good news.
Yay.
We had a crane pick out our old chiller today and put in the new one. So it's
Yay. Really?
years coming and 2 hours to do.
Wow. That's
It looks
exciting.
great. It's smaller, it fit right in the spot, so they're gonna come back tomorrow and hook up the electrical and mechanical magic that they do, and then we have some prep work on our end, and a week from now, we're actually gonna turn it on, a week from tomorrow, I think is our plan to turn it.
So we were in a wildlife biologist talking about banks while I was here. There was a crane at Recca.
I know, that's what exact crane
That's a crane.
I was like, I did the exact same thing, I'm glad that you just, less interested in the chiller. That's
Very
great. Congratulations.
Yeah, that's awesome.
No more puddles
Yeah,
Exciting.
it's been a struggle.
there.
Any response on the swallows?
Jim is typing right now. I have 3 dots.
Oh, you bother doing
Probably
it, yeah.
All right, we'll wait for that. Items on the board?
Are you guys done? No other
Yes.
from
I
staff?
think temporary update is probably the biggest one. Stephanie, you guys always give her updates on our stuff. I think most of the packet. The big one was today that Nino Gallo was over awarded, so. And again, I think we held that up, Steve has been the thing, project just has so many just stops and goes, but we did wanna look at, not putting pickleball in the neighborhood, but we knew they didn't really have a voice to, have some sort of activism that other communities do, so we went back out and worked with a neighborhood community group, and they had some meetings there, they presented several potential ideas, and came back with the wavy little loop track.
It's not like a bike track.
It's like a bike track, like the pump track.
Yeah. That's great.
But older kids on bikes like to ride them too, and
Exciting.
I'll run it. That'll be
I was
good.
gonna say, little toddlers run it, like outside the
Yeah.
ranch.
exactly.
Synthetic field started going.
Oh, yes,
Right, too.
Yeah, some,
I was waiting on the base map to get in and it started.
Yep, they started rolling.
I started rolling out today, so.
Staff, good with that? Okay. Just from the board, I had one question I could start with. What's the schedule for the lights at Roosevelt? I saw them on one night when I think they were installed, but they're not on other nights. And when does that start being on? I've gone with the kids that are excited and then they're like, it's dark. And like,
Yeah, it's actually, I don't have a good answer.
Okay.
It's,
So a switch I can hit
well,
somewhere?
we did it for Roosevelt Roosevelt. That's why we did it so
Yeah,
early.
got it.
But our intent is to turn them on in November, to actually turn them on. But those guys get them set up and then sometimes they go on and if we don't intend them to go on.
Yeah.
So it's actually something that is on my list of figuring out. But our intent is
Is it
not to
expensive
have
to run them?
To run them, no. It's,
Okay.
I don't believe it's not a bill I see, but I don't believe it's expensive to
Rush
run
them
them.
to
But
sell.
nevertheless, we feel like doing it in November. We try to start them in conjunction with ice ride. When we'd like to do it. So if you see them, think of it as a special treat.
You don't, sorry, can I ask a clarifying question? You don't see,
Tatiana just sent this to me like 2 hours ago. And the swallows were back this past year, the colony was smaller. But they are still working on what they can do as ways to do.
Is that grade A
mitigation
turf?
for it? Okay.
Artificial stuff, it's always grade A.
It's always-
Always an A.
Yeah.
Always been mentioned because all the construction fury swallows there, just
Um,
as they work.
Wow.
It'd be hard to do.
Different things.
I guess like it's far enough away that
Oh, that's.
Yeah, there's a.
they're certified, yeah.
It goes over here.
Did you see the picture?
I don't know whose it was.
It looked like a penny.
So yeah, recreation, that's a piece that, again, that went through the whole SES evaluations of water versus power versus off-gassing versus life cycle, all those pieces. It was kind of a wash, but recreation really felt we could help timber really give sandstone a rest on some of those.
Yeah, so we're formulating all sorts of plans as far as use out there, use at sandstone, trying to balance the two, try to cycle at sandstone for the first time would be amazing.
More forestry?
You go ahead. No, you go first.
Okay, actually, I have a couple questions. One, I noticed just in looking through the ice rink info, there was a note that said that rec center passes would not be accepted for drop-in or stick and poke. So does that mean there's gonna be an extra charge for people that are coming to like drop in and stick and poke? Because part of the reason I have a rec center pass is I don't have to pay extra for stuff like that. And now with this credit card system, it's gonna be even harder if people are coming at like 8 in the morning to do stick and poke. They're
It's not
expecting.
gonna be harder, there will be a slight,
Well, but they'll have to be paying where they weren't paying previously.
I'm not aware of that, so tell me again what it says.
It says
Right now.
rec center passes will not be accepted for drop-in and stick and poke. So which means they are accepted for ice skating. But I don't know why they would charge for drop-in and stick and poke. I mean, they require reservations, which to control the numbers.
I don't have an answer.
So if you would just let me know.
I will.
That would be great.
I'll send that answer out.
And then my other question was about just an update on the status of that. I think it's Clover Basin Reservoir that was drained for so long, and then it's the one that's on Nelson Road.
So you feel like Nelson?
Yeah, and then like all the weeds grew up, and I think I asked about it once before, and I think there was some repair happening, and now there's some water in it.
Isn't that unincorporated Boulder County?
So this is
Because we
a-
acquired
we
it,
acquired
right?
it with open,
Okay.
open space and water, acquired that property, we were working in that area. And this is a weird thing, I've been out there, I didn't know that, because that's a place we had actually a cement truck overturned at that spot, and we had to do a cleanup out there, remember that?
It was drained for months, and then like while it was drained, like tons of weeds grew up,
I'm following up.
and now there's a little bit of water in it again, but tons of weeds.
And it was that you're talking about, and I say I was out there for another reason that so those guys been in the
Yeah.
park, it's like, they didn't look at the water, because they're looking at the cement truck.
I have a quick question. Is anybody going to the park opening that we got an invite for? On the second?
I remember that, I'd like to go.
That is Clover Meadows Park.
Yes, yeah, that we went up to,
Yes.
on the tour, right, so now that's exciting, okay, I've been trying them.
That's
Trish and Tati had to do a great job trying to put together, or at least put together like a little event for.
that's the one with the
Oh,
little cute track.
Yeah, yeah, so I got an email invitation to it.
Yeah, they're doing it. They have the little apple orchard there, so they're doing the
Yeah.
apple theme sort of.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm planning on trying to swing by, I was just curious if it was going. I know we aren't like open for suggestions on things we want to hear about, but this is only my third meeting and it was asked about last time. I just didn't totally have any ideas, but I do have a couple of things sometime in the next short while. You brought up forestry. I would love, I don't know if you guys have ever had like a forestry update at this body or have had one recently, but I'd be really interested to learn more about whatever falls in the purview of parks, open space. How are forestry dollars being spent? How many trees are we maintaining? How many trees are we planting? How many trees would be sold? What kind of emerald ash borer situation are we seeing? I have like a secret little insight to the forestry world here, and I'd be interested to hear from kind of this side of the table. I'm going to be frank and say particularly where some of the forestry dollars go. There's quite a lot of money in that fund, or can be. And then
Tree mitigation fund.
tree mitigation fund. I don't want to get into the detail, but yeah, I've always been a little curious about.
Yeah, Brett could do
Right.
it.
Yeah, so I would invite
job.
Brett to come here sometime in 2025.
They do a great job doing that. Between
That'd be great.
Brett and
Total forestry management.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. You just named it.
Yeah.
So I would love. I don't know if anybody else is
Yeah.
interested, but I'm interested in having the city forestry.
It's needle you.
I mean, it depends on what part of forestry, if you're talking about urban forestry, or if you're talking about like all of the like wildfire mitigation.
So that would- that'd
forestry
be- that'd
that's
be
happening like at Button Rock and the open
price.
spaces.
Yeah, price
So
would be
which
totally
one are you interested
More the city, urban, city forest. Even what you brought up. Do you need a permit? No, you don't need a permit. I know again, kind of maybe there's discussion about what falls in the purview of this board.
I mean, I wasn't here for the.
Yeah, but I think
Yeah,
it
It's
was.
good to touch on 18 and 24%.
Yeah, we've made some
Yeah,
big
absolutely.
changes in that
Yeah.
tree mitigation too. Starting last year, if like a street project is going in, putting a bunch of trees, use a tree mitigation fund to pay for the trees.
So glad to hear that.
So, because there was a,
Yeah,
it's a good pot of money.
There's a good amount of money there. And reforestation, other efforts, which have.
We used that to offset the tree sale this year.
Okay, cool. So just like, I just in general would be interested to hear from Brett. And then similarly, talk about bird nesting with the swallows. I don't know when the right season is, 'cause I think nesting season's just ending in December or something for most of the like the protected birds, isn't it like August through December is the like the nesting season, yeah. So sometime after nesting season ends, or just in general, it'd be interesting to me to get like a habitat report for what's going on in the city, how many birds do we see, what do the volunteers see, related to that, like any kind of ecosystem update, hey, our
Birds and mammals, do you want?
yeah, the mammals, and even like I know there's like volunteers that check on the quality of the lakes, like just kind of an ecosystem, particularly mammals, birds. I'd be really interested in it. Just how many birds were found in the city this year? Did we have to do mitigation after all of them? Did Nest do well or did they fail?
Have you been seeing like Cornell's new technology that tells you how many birds are flying over your house any night?
No.
Yeah, it's crazy. I'll pull it up. It is crazy.
It's a place you
One
put birds.
one night, Boulder County had 1,307,000 birds fly over in one night.
That's
Crazy. Yeah.
A lot of them are geese.
They were not, it was earlier than geese fly, but,
That's
and
it.
it tells you the species, it is crazy, I'll show you.
Yeah.
After that.
But yeah, I don't, again, sometime in 2025, if we're looking for a topic,
Yeah,
Jim
so
and some
that's-
of his,
Bring Jim
Yeah.
and bring Scott in or
yeah,
something.
something like that,
Yes.
yeah, just,
I'd love to, it'd be great.
it's my personal interest, I'm gonna use the.
Yeah.
I have two things. So one of them is a kudos to like all the programs working together. There was a big fish kill. I don't know if any of you heard of it. There's a big fish kill in Left Hand. And one of my friends who's like some sort of environmental doctorate at Colorado or University of Colorado, she's like so crazy smart. She calls me, she's like frantic, who do I call? And I'm like, blah, and I'm like thinking everybody's gonna like tamp it down. And that was not the case at all. And I got out there, because I actually just thought everybody was gonna kind of ignore it. And so I got out there with water testing, but as soon as I got out of work, I'm like grabbing all the water testing equipment. I go out and there's city, there's Colorado Parks and there's so many different agencies working together, and I was really, really pleased at the response and how seriously people took that, and it made me really happy and have a lot more confidence in my government. And it's like I kind of wanted to throw that out in like some newspaper somewhere when people are complaining about the government, and it's like, this was your government protecting you. So,
I would give kudos to, that was really our water, wastewater guys, because they have all the chemical, I mean, our wildlife staff knows that's dead fish, and here's, the species it is, and but they don't know what's causing it, so it really was a great coordination between CPW and our water, wastewater guys.
There was also field staff noticed the fish in the creek, and they reported it in through our team. They're like, they were seeing a fish kill off on Left Hand, and I was able to walk in the lake, and I was like, hey, what's going on with that Left Hand? And he knew there was an issue.
yeah, so there was in the neighborhood there was an inlet from the neighborhood, and they tested it at 0.1% chlorine, which is humongous. And so I don't know what the outcome is of who they tracked, what they tracked it down to, and I hope if it was corporate, they pay, and I hope if it was private, they now know that their actions have consequences.
Like some drain off the pool or something.
Maybe it was, I mean,
I think there'd
and
be a
you
lot
saw
of
like there were
chlorine.
fish like this, and
The
fish
amount
like
you would
this.
need to like,
There was 1,000 fish killed, and I mean like this. I mean, I have pictures of the buckets. It was crazy. I kind of I just didn't have time to like get that into the media because I thought it would be interesting for the media to see that. So that was a compliment. And then I also would like to see, especially we're tying in with the birds and that migration, and then also so many astronomy events. I can't even say the big word. I'd like to see the city have dark sky nights. I'd like to see, we've had Aurora Borealis that nobody can see. We have a comet nobody can see. We have the Perseid meteor shower that I would love for us to be able to go to Sandstone Ranch. The last time I went to Sandstone to look at it, the police questioned me and a couple, some high schoolers that I had with me and things like that. I'd like to see some more dark sky and just put it out there because it doesn't hurt to put it out there.
You've actually asked that before, and it's something that's beyond us, and that's got something constantly happen. I mean, there's so many people involved and stuff,
Yeah.
but the piece, if we have places like Sandstone and it's school groups and teachers, and I don't think we have a problem. We've opened up for astronomers and stuff to come out there, so we could do a permitting system. So
Yeah.
we can definitely do permitting for that. The bigger picture, I'm gonna push it down.
Well, I think the bigger picture is doing it like, when I first heard you say that, I thought, oh, that could be problematic because if you once told everybody to do this, it would be someone's excuse for doing some sort of nefarious acts. And but if we just had it at like Sandstone or maybe Garden Acres or someone like that, and it was very specific, then we probably could have the police notification and that, and make something like that happen. It's just.
I was thinking bigger than that, just say, that
Right,
would be
right,
nice,
there's
I'm
gotta be a
thinking
huge-
citywide, big cities this is real deal, cities are doing this. Crime doesn't really, it's a kind of a myth that light is such a crime deterrent. Light gives a lot of criminals a way to see the crime that they're doing. Like that, like when you look at the
When the Marshall Fire occurred, there were people that complained to the city about why wasn't Longmont there. Longmont was there, but we could never announce that because the fact that if we did, and we did have a couple of situations where crime did occur because people did figure out that we had the bulk of our fire and police over helping with that situation. That was it. Now, I don't know the statistical data. I'd have to talk to Zach, our chief of safety and everything, and see what he knows about that. He probably has more statistical data that maybe support what you're talking about. We can figure that out. I just don't. It's got to be something where, like, when you do that, is it something that we know is going to happen at kind of a general time, like that?
Well, you know when
meteor
like
shower?
the Perseids are going to be, and you do know some basics about when huge bird migrations are, but I mean cities are doing that. Big cities are turning up the lights. It's happening, and we can, if we're on the forefront of some stuff, we can be in the forefront of this. And I'll just feed it out.
Heard of it.
No, I like them. That's why I'm bringing it up. Is that you have to start feeding people that kind of information until they get a taste of it. That's all.
Yeah, I've been trying to suggest adding a dark sky ordinance to the building permit process for commercial buildings, but that would be a huge impact too.
Yeah.
It exists in the county and the city of Boulder and not in my knowledge. There's one.
And
It has been integrated, so there is not, it's not. The Dark Skies Initiative was integrated in the municipal code, into the building code, so there, you can't find anywhere that's like the Dark Sky Initiative because of
Yeah,
X,
I was
Y,
thinking
Z,
about
right?
that.
It's, you took the, whatever was in the Dark Sky Initiative and put it in the
but it
So
doesn't
lights are
it doesn't retrograde.
Yeah, all that stuff.
It doesn't retro.
Yeah.
It's not going retro, but it had I do know some because I was at a meeting where they said, but it's not retrograde. And you still get in trouble if you block off your lights in my neighborhood.
Yeah, that came up with the lights out at Dry Creek. Not Dry, Dry Creek.
Yeah.
Like, well, it's a part of the Dark Skies Initiative.
Yeah.
Dark Skies Initiative was this.
And you're doing a great job. And so we're doing a great job. Let's keep going. Let's keep going.
Anything else? Okay, motion to adjourn.
I'm going to adjourn.
Thank you, all in favor?